Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. Since taking over WWE's creative regime, Triple H has regularly made pivotal changes, be it repackaging superstars or introducing new factions. While some changes have been noticeable, others have unfolded discreetly. Given the recent situation, fans have been wondering whether the game quietly dismantled a prominent faction on Raw, Latino World Order. LWO's conspicuous absence from the Red Brands show has sparked widespread speculation among fans. Zelina Vega, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and Dragon Lee have all been noticeably missing from the show of late. It has been a while since the LWO stablemates have been spotted with Rey Mysterio, leaving fans wondering about the faction's status. However, Triple H has not broken up the Latino World Order. A major reason why the members of the group have not been seen together is due to a lack of creative plans for them. The company is seemingly struggling to book Rey Mysterio and company in a faction versus faction feud on Monday Night Raw, and this creative dilemma may be the reason for their prolonged absence. The Master of 619 made a surprise appearance on the latest edition of SmackDown and also competed in an impromptu match. Meanwhile, Zelina Vega has been making sporadic appearances on Raw, while Dragon Lee has been absent from the Red Brands show for quite some time. This is a clear indication that the company currently has no plans for LWO. It remains to be seen whether Triple H has plans to keep the legendary faction active or if he decides to disband it in the coming months. LWO's fate is looming in uncertainty. Did Triple H move Rey Mysterio to WWE SmackDown? Rey Mysterio's surprise appearance on the Blue Brands show this week has created quite a buzz among fans. The legendary luchador competed in a singles match against Kevin Owens on the Friday night show, in which he suffered a loss. However, this also caused the WWE Universe to wonder whether the veteran had switched rosters. However, there are no reports of Mysterio moving to SmackDown. The recent episode of Blue Brands show took place in San Diego, California, which happens to be his hometown. Therefore, the Master of 619 paid a visit to the show to greet his home crowd and announce his participation in the Men's Royal Rumble match. Triple H does not seem to have any plans of moving Rey Mysterio to Friday nights. The WWE Hall of Famer is set to remain a part of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. However, fans can certainly expect some inter-brand feuds involving Rey, as the brand split seemingly no longer holds any significance. It will be quite interesting to see what the future holds for the legendary luchador, and if the game has any major plans for him for WrestleMania 41. The atmosphere inside the arena was electric as WWE fans filled the seats for Monday Night Raw, eagerly awaiting the latest developments in the storylines. But there was an undeniable tension surrounding one particular faction that had dominated WWE programming for months: the Judgment Day, a stable that had proven to be one of the most successful, powerful, and feared factions in modern WWE. The Judgment Day had brought forth a new era of dominance. The faction consisted of Rhea Ripley, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and the controversial Dominic Mysterio, each of them carrying a distinct personality that, when combined, formed an almost unstoppable unit. But as the show progressed, the whispers began to circulate. Fans on social media started to notice subtle shifts in dynamics, small moments that, if pieced together, seemed to indicate something monumental was brewing behind the scenes. Was Triple H, the architect of many of WWE's greatest factions and rivalries, quietly orchestrating the breakup of the Judgment Day? The scene unfolded on Raw with an unexpected interaction. Finn Balor, the leader of the faction, had entered the ring for a scheduled promo. As he spoke, the tension was palpable. He was hyping up his plans for the upcoming pay-per-view event, hinting that a new level of dominance was soon to be achieved by the Judgment Day. Yet, as his promo continued, a subtle unease became evident in his voice. Just moments before the segment was to come to a close, Rhea Ripley's music hit, signaling her arrival. The audience erupted, excited for the dominant champion, who had made a name for herself in WWE as the powerhouse of the faction. Ripley walked to the ring with a commanding presence, and as soon as she stepped inside, the dynamic between her and Finn Balor was off. While their interactions were usually cordial, even cooperative, tonight's vibe was different. There was something unspoken in the air, an air of tension that couldn't be ignored. Rhea grabbed the microphone, cutting Baylor off mid-sentence. "I'm sick of hearing about your grand plans, Finn," she snapped. "It's always your plans, your vision. Maybe it's time someone else stepped up and took charge." The crowd gasped. Was this a subtle declaration that Rhea Ripley had aspirations beyond being just another member of the faction? Before Baylor could respond, Damian Priest, the powerhouse of the group, made his way to the ring. He appeared in his usual stoic manner, his eyes scanning the tension between Ripley and Baylor. As the two stared each other down, Priest interjected, "Rhea's right. We've all been riding on the coattails of Baylor for too long. Maybe it's time we start thinking for ourselves." Dominic Mysterio, always lurking in the background, finally stepped forward with his characteristic smug grin. "I think we've all been treated like sidekicks to Finn's hero act, and honestly, I'm over it. It's time for some changes around here." It was clear that something was brewing. The Judgment Day, the faction that had terrorized Raw for months, was beginning to fracture before our very eyes. But what could this mean for the future of the faction? Were they on the verge of breaking up completely? Or was this just a momentary rift that would eventually be mended? The evening continued, but the feeling of unease lingered in the air. For weeks leading up to this moment, there had been signs that Triple H, as the creative force behind WWE's main product, was building something new for the Judgment Day. As a seasoned promoter and leader of several iconic factions, Triple H knew the importance of keeping factions fresh and exciting. It wasn't uncommon for factions to evolve or break apart once their stories had reached their peak. And what better way to elevate the individual members of the Judgment Day than to split them apart and send them down separate paths? The next few weeks would tell the true story, but the groundwork was already being laid for something bigger. Was Triple H quietly dismantling the faction for good? Or was this all part of a larger, more intricate storyline designed to build even more drama and anticipation? The internal strife continued on Monday Night Raw in the following weeks, with Rhea Ripley increasingly becoming the focal point of her own storyline. She began to clash with Finn Balor over who would lead the faction, and the arguments became more heated. Damian Priest, who had previously been the quiet enforcer, seemed to take sides with Ripley, even going as far as to question Balor's leadership in public promos. The Judgment Day, once an unshakable force, was now a house divided, with each member seemingly vying for their own glory. But why now? Why was Triple H opting to tear down what had been one of the most successful factions in recent memory? One could speculate that the faction had simply reached its peak. Their reign as a dominant force on Raw had lasted for several months, and Triple H was likely looking to freshen up the product with new rivalries and stories. The move to split up the faction could pave the way for each member to explore solo storylines that would further develop their individual characters. For Finn Balor, this could be an opportunity to reclaim the spotlight that he had once enjoyed in NXT, away from the shadow of the faction. For Rhea Ripley, this would give her the space to become the undisputed dominant force in the women's division, especially after her stellar reign as the Women's World Champion. Damian Priest could finally get the singles run he had long deserved, and Dominic Mysterio could continue to evolve from his role as the spoiled brat into a more serious competitor. Despite the palpable tension in the air, the ultimate question remained: was this truly the end of the Judgment Day? Triple H had built factions in the past with long-lasting impacts, and the splits of iconic groups like D-Generation X and Evolution had often led to some of the most memorable moments in WWE history. The key to making this breakup work would be the long-term storytelling that Triple H had mastered throughout his career. Only time would tell what the future held for the Judgment Day. Whether they remained an intact unit or completely broke apart, one thing was clear. Triple H had once again shown his knack for creating captivating, unpredictable storylines that kept fans on the edge of their seats. As Raw ended, the remaining members of the Judgment Day stood in the ring, their fates uncertain. The fans were left wondering if this was a chapter closing or just the beginning of a new and even more exciting one. Would Triple H's quiet breakup of the faction lead to bigger, more explosive storylines for all involved? Only time would tell. But for now, Monday Night Raw had given us a glimpse into a future that was bound to change the landscape of WWE forever.